Lights, camera, action!
Welcome to Ropes2Reels. I'm at Adam Conta. Yes, Drew Ferris is once again not with us this week, but fear not, we are not going to leave you without an episode of Ropes2Reels here on the Wrasslun Show Network. Instead, we're going to take a look at some more music videos. I really enjoyed watching both Smashing Pumpkins' Awada and Cyndi Lauper's Goonies Are Good Enough last week, and I had a lot of fun looking at some of the fun facts behind them, as well as telling you my general thoughts, how I felt about the whole thing. This week, more of the same. We're going to take a look at a couple of different music videos, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things I was able to find about them, but also why I like the videos, why I think that they're pretty neat. I mean, let's be honest, professional wrestling and music videos are two really misunderstood art forms. So it's my hope that today we can sit down, we can watch these music videos together, we can talk a little bit about them and why they've stuck with so many of us. Of course, I had a plethora of music videos to choose from this week, as I did last week. There are lots of music video connections to professional wrestling. One thing I noticed a lot, hip-hop loves Ric Flair. This is something, of course, we've talked a lot about in the Wrasslun show, particularly when Matt and I did our little look back at Ric Flair's career when he was making headlines while in the hospital. Thank goodness the Nature Boy is back on his feet and feeling great. Good luck to you, Rick. Hope you're feeling better, even better soon. So that's what it all comes back to, is the inspiration that these guys give to a lot of musicians, which you're going to see in a lot of these music videos, especially this first one, which was actually recommended to me by Jeff DeHaan from the Go Home Spot. He came up to me one day, I remember, on the phone and said, "Hey, have you ever heard of the Mountain Goats?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, they put out an all wrestling album called Beat the Champ. And there's this one song, The Legend of Chavo Guerrero. You got to hear it." So that's what we're going to do today. If you have never heard of the Mountain Goats or the song The Legend of Chavo Guerrero, we're going to listen and watch that together right now, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. So what I'd like you to do is pull up YouTube and type in The Mountain Goats, The Legend of Chavo Guerrero. Pretty simple, right? I'm watching the official music video version. It's 3 minutes and 23 seconds. Let's get right into it. So the video starts off with a videotape, a VHS that says "Kick-Ass Wrestling Moments" with the double Z's. And we get our first cameo from comedian Rob Corddry, of all people, which I find is absolutely hilarious. Of course, there's going to be a few more cameos to come. There's one right there from, I believe that was Joey Ryan who hit him. I love the blood splatter in the corner. Very old school. But of course, that's what this is about, right? The Mountain Goats said that this was all about them watching NWA wrestling back in the day. That's what inspired them watching it in the Olympic Auditorium. I actually really like that Joey Ryan rips up a kitten in that picture, and then a grandmother. That's like old school heel tactics right there. That's the stuff I love. And of course, we have these musicians looking really disgusted about the whole thing. I love the background for the music video. It has like a very WrestleMania kind of feel to it. And now Corddry's getting in on it with his almost Tyler Breeze-like vest, which I think actually looks pretty good on him. This is one of my favorite parts of the video. This has got to be a clear reference to the CM Punk pipe bomb, cutting the promos, sitting down with the spotlight on him. And he's even got the X's on the tape. So, you know, it's pretty obvious that these guys, the Mountain Goats, they're big fans, not just of old school wrestling, but of the modern day product. And that's going to clearly come through in a lot of what they do here. Now, we got these two guys going at it here in the ring. We know Joey Ryan's one of them. I dare say that the other one's Rip Impact. I don't know if it actually is. He's got a pretty sweet beard, and Rip's a pretty clean-shaven dude, but man, he looks like Rip Impact. And if you don't know who Rip Impact is, I actually encourage you to go and check out one of our archived episodes of Calling Spots, where I do an interview with Rip Impact. He's just opened up a school in Hamilton as well. And believe me, if there's anybody out there who wants to learn the business, Rip's a good guy to learn from. And there he is, the man himself, the man talked about in the song. That's Chavo Guerrero Sr., still looking pretty good for his age, I'd say. And posing with the NWA big gold belt, as it was known. You know, I'm probably going to take some heat for this, but I was never a big fan of the big gold belt design. I preferred the dome belt from the NWA. As far as WCW titles go, yeah, probably that was better than the old WCW 1990s championship from like 92. You know, the one Vader had, but even still, picking... what's the phrase I'm looking for here? Splitting hairs over this. What we should be talking about is some of the action we've got going on in the ring here with, I'm going to just call him, I don't know, Zip Impact? Yeah, we'll call him Zip Impact because it's not Rip Impact. At least I don't think it is. Somebody tweet me at Adam Conta if you know who that wrestler is, and let me know if that is in fact Rip Impact, because man, does it ever look like him. I think anybody who was a fan of the Southpaw regional wrestling videos that were put out by WWE, if you're a fan of those, you're going to absolutely love this music video because it has a very similar feel to it. And that's it. We get the static, and that's the end of the video. We're all done with that one. But I thought it was a lot of fun. And if you thought so too, let us know. Of course, we'd love to hear your take on it at the Wrasslun Show, at Adam Conta. We don't have a Twitter for Ropes2Reels. Maybe we got to change that. Great stuff. And one thing we have to look forward to is that the Mountain Goats actually did promise Sasha Banks that they were going to do a song about her. So fingers crossed on that one. Now, while that video was all about kind of the goofiness of professional wrestling and the pageantry of it, the next video we're going to look at focuses a lot more on the art form of professional wrestling. So I want you to go pull up YouTube and look for Born Ruffians. That's Ruffians. And the song is The Ballad of Moose Bruce. We're going to pull it up here and we're going to talk a little bit about why I love this video. And I personally think it may be one of my favorite music videos that involves professional wrestling ever. So one thing about music videos is that I think they're an underappreciated art form. And of course, I feel that same way about professional wrestling as well. And this video turns professional wrestling into art, or I should say it highlights professional wrestling as art. So what you're seeing right now, in case you don't know who these two are, is we've got Marcus Marquez, who used to wrestle in Squared Circle Wrestling and the Max Pro promotions from down south. I've seen him a couple of times, but I haven't heard much from him lately unless he's just changed his gimmick, which could be completely it. Taking one there on the chin from a guy who knows a thing or two about swinging elbows. That's Chris Hero, a.k.a. Cassius Ono, for those of you who are big fans of NXT. So this was filmed at the Squared Circle Training Facility down in Toronto, or North York, as they have it on the description here. And this entire video is shot in slow motion. And the reason I love it is because, the wrestling business moves so fast, and wrestling matches can go so fast sometimes that we don't really get a chance to stop and appreciate the complexity and the beauty of exactly what's happening between those ropes. And it is something beautiful. It is something artistic. And this song, The Ballad of Moose Bruce, and particularly this video, demonstrates that, because it is literally slowing everything down so that we can see every single thing that's happening here. And for some people, they will say, that's pretentious. But to me, I think it really does go to show all the small nuances and things that goes into a professional wrestling match. And I'm sure that's a lot of that comes from just the old school fan in me who says, we need to slow down a bit more. We need to take our time with professional wrestling and let fans see what's happening, really see what's happening here. But what I love is that we have seen only two wrestling moves. We've seen a boot to the head, and we've seen the rolling elbow from Cassius Ono. And of course, that would put anybody out. But I mean, this is great because Cassius is about to pull off a moonsault here, and you really get to see, you know, the beauty of the human body itself, and just kind of how one needs to contort and move in order to make something like this actually possible. And normally when we see a moonsault, you know, it takes a split second. I was just thinking back about watching Sabu do moonsaults into tables, trying to break them, and just not being able to really appreciate it as much as I do this one move. And I like the fact that they got different angles for it as well. If you think about it, this video probably took, 5 minutes to actually shoot. It's all editing because it's all about the slow motion. And even there you see Marquez catching him, showing the relationship between these two guys in the ring when that bell goes, how they have to protect one another. And I like that you can see the ripples in the body and the skin. It's artful. It's really, I honestly feel like it's very artful. One of the most artful music videos I've ever seen, and also one of the more artful displays of professional wrestling. And that's it. It's a great video. I like it. The song, whatever. I'm sorry. I'm not much of a fan of the song, but I like that video a lot. And I knew that when we were going to start reviewing music videos, that was one I wanted to talk about because I think it's a great music video. And I think that it really does show the art of professional wrestling. All right. I want to move on and talk a little bit about one of my favorite wrestling music videos that I've ever seen. And it's by a band that I was aware of as a Canadian, but not one that I'd ever really stopped to listen to their music. And that's on me. They offer a very unique form of music. They like to call it powwow step, which I guess is like dubstep, but with indigenous chants, which is really cool. I highly recommend you go and check it out just to hear this different kind of music. Type into your YouTube machine A Tribe Called Red. Probably saw what they did there, featuring Northern Voice and their song Suplex, which is the EP off of their album Suplex, which I'm told is also professional wrestling themed. Of all the videos that I'm going to review today, this one is probably my favorite. So let's hit play and get started. Start off with the young boy in the car, and we can hear some of A Tribe Called Red's music playing in the background as he's anxiously heading over to a wrestling event, and not just any wrestling event. It's a Smash wrestling show. Now they don't say it's explicitly in the video that it's a Smash show, but we're going to see a ton of Smash talent, and this is the rec center that they operate out of. And I know this because Jeff and I from the Go Home Spot have been to a Smash wrestling show in Toronto where they operate out of. You're going to find that I'm talking about Jeff Dehan a lot in this episode, only because he's very musically inclined. I'm going to get back to that, but I definitely want to shout out this 1980s Nintendo style opening here that I'm assuming is a shout out to Nintendo. And even in that 5 seconds right there, there's so many things to talk about. All the posters on the wall. I want to know where they got those sweet Jimmy Snuka and Ricky Steamboat posters, unless someone has been like holding on to those for years, in which case, awesome, man. Good for you. And of course, we're seeing pretty much all of our childhoods, I think, right in here, making your own masks and costumes, doing suplexes and beating up your pillow, and then moving into your backyard and wrestling your friends. Because I'll tell you, that was it for me. And look at these guys. They even made their own ring. I'm impressed with that. Because that's what it was like for me. Started with me and a good buddy of mine, Ray Beauchamp, who is currently wrestling right now as a member of the Northland Wrestling roster. We started out wrestling in my basement, and then, of course, we moved it into the backyards with guys like Mike Walsh, who we talked about on the Wrasslun show and the Go Home Spot recently, and a few others, of course, including Jeff Dehan. All former backyard wrestlers, us here at the Wrasslun Show Network. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I guess it depends on who's listening and what you think of that sort of thing. But what we're seeing here is the evolution of someone taking their dream of being a pro wrestler and then evolving it into actually moving forward, which I think is pretty awesome. there's a lot of guys here that you're going to see and recognize. Any fans of the Cruiserweight Classic or Smash Wrestling will recognize the guy in the black and orange trunks as the wrestling cyborg, Tyson Dukes, a guy that I personally think is honestly one of the better, if not the best, professional wrestler in Ontario, which is really cool. There he is right there, the man. Of course, we're going to see a lot of different stars in here. I know Zack Sabre Jr. will make an appearance at some point. I'm pretty sure that guy right there, the star of the film, is another wrestler from Ontario, Ojin Thundercloud, which I could be wrong, but he looks really familiar to me, and that's my guess. But if I'm wrong, I really apologize, and I'm sorry for that. I love this mask that he has. This hood is a really cool wrestling mask. And I got kind of excited because I thought the guy in the Shocker mask might have been El Reverso, who's a guy that I used to hang out with in Windsor. That, however, is not El Reverso. That's John Greed. And he is just a massive beast of a man and also massively talented. That's Tarek right there giving the Hurricane Rana to our young hero. Again, all of these guys incredibly talented. I highly recommend, if you have not yet checked out Smash Wrestling, do so. They are really putting on some fantastic shows every single month, everywhere that they go. So great organization. There is Zack Sabre Jr. himself, another member of another alumnus of the Cruiserweight Classic from a few years ago. So you can see, obviously, this is the evolution where this guy went from being a kid in the crowd to now he's actually in the ring fighting against Zack Sabre Jr., putting him through a table. Great spot there. Really well filmed as well. And I love the Nintendo beats in the background with the song. As I said, this isn't necessarily the kind of music that I think I would listen to outside of this review. It's just not my thing. I'm not a big fan of electronic music in general, but I love watching it with this video. It really is incredibly fitting. So, whoever directed this video, John Riera, should be really proud. And of course, we see the cycle start over again with a fan putting on the mask of our hero and dreaming of dropping elbows and being a wrestler. And we can assume from the narrative of the story that is now our hero all grown up as an old man. I love it. I love storytelling. I'm a big fan of storytelling. So when I watch a music video like that tells a story along with the song, it's not just a bunch of pretty images that go along with it. That's the kind of stuff that really, really impresses me. Those are my favorite kind of music videos to watch. That's why I love that. Like, for anybody who is kind of curious, one of my favorite music videos of all time is Radiohead's Just. Because if you watch that, it tells a really interesting story and it leaves you with a cliffhanger. So I like that one a whole lot. Next video we're going to get to. It's weird. That's all I can say about it. It's weird. But hey, we're not ones to shy away from the weirdness here at Ropes2Reels. So after the break, I'm going to compose myself and we're going to try and get through it, man.
By God, it's a hot night here in the arena, and there's electricity in the air.
You can say that again, Matt. It's almost as exciting as when the Wrasslun Show Network releases a brand new podcast episode.
Ropes2Reels every Thursday. We have till 5 every Friday. The Go Home Spot every Saturday. And the Wrasslun Show every Sunday.
That's a championship caliber team right there. And what I like is that each member of that team brings a unique style to the group with their own signature finishing moves, too.
Need to catch up on the world of WWE this week? Take a ride with Jeff Dehan and the Go Home Spot.
Pop culture junkie, Drew Ferris takes you to Cineplex City when the worlds of movies and wrestling collide on Ropes2Reels.
Andrew Kent won't hold back with his list of the best and worst in professional wrestling, and he doesn't have to. He has till 5.
And watching from the outside, closely observing the world of professional wrestling, it's the group's founder, The Wrasslun Show, as devious as they come.
The crowd here is rabid, and they can't get enough of these podcasts.
Well, thankfully, the Wrasslun Show Network gives them 4 new episodes a week, every week.
That's the Wrasslun Show Network, where everything is wrestling.
And wrestling is everything. Okay, so what could we possibly be looking at that's weirder than the Cyndi Lauper Goonies Are Good Enough video that I watched last week? Well, this one, I don't know if it has any actual professional wrestlers in it, but it's about a professional wrestler, so I'm going to count it. And if you have an issue with that, send all of your hate mail to @SirFword. Not me. He handles the hate mail. It's Ray Stevens and the Ballad of the Blue Cyclone. I got a very interesting story about this whole music video and the gimmick in just a bit. But first, I want you to pull that up on YouTube. That's all you need to look for. Ray Stevens the Ballad of the Blue Cyclone, in parentheses, the beginning. This is actually another two-parter. And you know what? I wasn't going to play both parts, but I might end up doing that a little bit later. We'll see how I feel. But let's get to part one right now. Ray Stevens, the Ballad of the Blue Cyclone. So we get the big poster spinning towards you, and this guy who looks like every indie masked guy you've seen at your local wrestling company. And Ray Stevens, yes, the master of the streak, that Ray Stevens. He's got a China poster in his wall, so you know that this is kind of a more recent music video that he did, which is kind of surprising to me. I didn't realize that Ray Stevens was still doing music, but I guess he is, or he just reshot this video for an older song. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about Ray Stevens, except Ray Stevens the wrestler. That's the other thing, is that this is, I guess, a link to wrestling in another way, that Ray Stevens shares a name with one of the greatest of all time, Ray the Crippler Stevens, who very notoriously and famously teamed up with Pat Patterson in the San Francisco area, and then the AWA. Was part of a really popular stable with Nick Bockwinkel and Bobby the Brain Heenan. I don't know what it is, but I love these kinds of over-the-top, silly, shticky stuff. And for a short period of time, there was a wrestling company that I worked for in Kingston, Ontario Championship Wrestling, where we considered, I don't know how seriously, but we did spend an evening talking a little bit about how somebody should come out as the Blue Cyclone and use this as their theme song and have it be just kind of goofy. And anybody who knows me knows that that kind of stuff is right up my alley, and it's the kind of thing that I would love to see because I love goofy, silly stuff. So I would totally be in favor of that kind of gimmick actually being used on an independent show, but that's just me. Again, send your hate mail to @SirFword. I don't know if any of these guys are actual professional wrestlers or if they're just actors, but I got to give them credit. They're certainly good at putting on a show. They're very entertaining. For those of you who don't know the story of the Blue Cyclone, essentially these guys go to the wrestling match and they get the wrestlers riled up, and then they challenge the wrestlers to a fight, essentially, and the Blue Cyclone is happy to answer. This, of course, probably comes from the fact that there are so many stories about stuff like this happening on an almost nightly basis in the old territory days, and of course, even in the WWF back in the 80s and the 70s, in which guys would try to challenge them and say, hey, you're just a fake, phony wrestler, and what ended up happening? Well, they'd cross a Harley Race or a Meng or an Andre the Giant, and that was it. They'd be sent home packing. I'm sure there's others out there, but those are the first three names that come to mind when it comes to bar fights and guys getting challenged to fight. Of course, that's not the real Ray Stevens. They're using a dummy, but that's what makes me laugh all the harder at this ridiculousness that we're watching. I love this kind of stuff. The dreaded Noogie, one of my favorite professional wrestling moves, and Sergeant Slaughter's as well. If you ever happen to watch him do the Sergeant Slaughter, it's not he had that as a finisher at some point. I don't know what they actually called it, but that's essentially what he was. They put his fist to the guy's temple and kind of like squeezed in, so it was like an atomic noogie. And how else could we end this video with Ray Stevens taking a nap as the Blue Cyclone rants and talks about how he's the greatest of all time. And that might be the greatest professional wrestling music video of all time. Okay, maybe not, but it's still pretty great if you ask me. That's the Ballad of the Blue Cyclone. Yes, it's to be continued. Maybe we'll save part 2 for another day, or if you want, go ahead and watch it yourself. It's Ray Stevens, the Ballad of the Blue Cyclone, and then parentheses, the end. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Jeff the Hand, because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't know this song and this music video, which I love because it features Bret Hart. And as a Canadian, I actually think it is Canuck law that you have to love anything and everything that Bret Hart is associated with. And with that, we're going to watch Rascals. That's Rascalz, and their song Game Time. BW Sharpshooter. Now, the BW isn't part of the song. I think that's just kind of supposed to mean also known as, or I don't know, parentheses Sharpshooter, featuring Bret Hart. That's the video I'm watching. So you can pull it up on your YouTube and we can watch this one together. Here we go, some hip hop for you. So we start off in a really kind of futuristic world. I don't know if that's because it's supposed to go along with the, hip hop style they're going for. I don't know. Was that a big thing? It was a thing in the 90s, and this is definitely a 90s 2000 music video. You can tell these guys they're ready to throw down because they're all getting ready in the locker room. And now I don't know if this was shot on a green screen or if somebody actually built these sets that look all futuristic and like they're going through some sort of ancient Aztec temple. But I did like the Bret Hart symbol that was on the video screen just a moment ago. As I mentioned before, this group was brought to my attention by Jeff DeHaan. He's a big fan of these guys, and he's the only guy I know that has multiple records from the Rascals. And I'm not saying that to put them down. I'm just saying Jeff knew music. He was really into music, and he was much more knowledgeable about stuff that was off the mainstream than I was. So he would always have something cool for me to check out. And I remember, obviously, anything with me that you want me to get more interested in, the easiest way to do it is to connect it somehow to wrestling. So I remember this may have been the first thing that he showed me about the Rascals because it was called Sharpshooter. Bret Hart is featured in the video. And what else do you need? I'll tell you what else you need. You need cannons that fire records. Yeah, records were still a thing back then. I mean, I think they were. I think CDs it's kind of taken over, but people still knew what they were. Of course, vinyl has made a big comeback now, so maybe records are the one form of music media that won't die. It refuses to give up, much like John Cena. Records are the John Cena of the music business. And there we actually get Bret Hart audio, which I think is really great. Okay, so I forget things sometimes. The last time I'd seen this music video was years ago, and I forgot. So the first half that we listened to was called Game Time, and this second half of the song is Sharpshooter, featuring Bret Hart. Okay, and we heard Bret earlier there. I like that effect with the microphones as like grappling hooks. I thought those were pretty cool. And now here's the secret weapon. They're waking him up. It's Bret Hart, the WCW champion at the time of this video. And it's funny because Bret Hart was on a table and they had all those like mechanical arms kind of operating on him. And that totally reminded me of the opening of WCW Saturday Night. So now here's Bret Hart predicting the future by getting into what appears to be a 6-sided or 8-sided ring with the Rascals. And they're rapping. Am I the only one? There's Bret showing off his whitest of white Canadian hip hop moves. That's how Canadians do. That's how really white sour cream, like guys like me, that's how we dance to hip hop. We just put our hands in the air and kind of shake it to the beat. Oh, God. Thank goodness Bret Hart's wrestling skills are better than his dance moves. I say that with all love and respect for the Hitman, but oh, that was hilariously sad. Thank God he can cut a promo, because I don't know about you, but I don't think there's a better way to end a rap song than with a Bret Hart promo, unless, of course, it's Bret Hart pumping his fists in the air. And just because we need to see Bret Hart beat someone up, that's how we end it, which is a great way to do so, if you ask me. And there it is, Rascals, Game Time / Sharpshooter, featuring Bret Hart. Love that one. So shout out to Jeff DeHaan. Thanks so much for that one. All right, so I'm going to wrap things up here. I I really appreciate you guys sticking it out with me. I had a lot of fun talking about those videos. If you've got any suggestions for me, hit me up at Adam Conta. I'd love to hear them. In the meantime, we got a call for action. Review us on iTunes. You know, that's the best way that we're going to get people to listen to this show, and we really want them to. And check out the rest of the Wrasslun Show Network. We have till 5, the Go Home Spot, and of course, the one that started it all, the Wrasslun Show. Until next week, maybe I'll have a partner, maybe I'll fly solo, depending on how many requests I get. Maybe I'll watch some more music videos. We'll see. But until then, I want to thank everyone for coming to check us out. And that's a wrap.